I look around the SEC. I wanted to rate the quarterback situations. The entire room, like how good is your room, scale of 1 to 10? This is in no particular order. In fact, we had a blind random drawing this afternoon to decide the order I was going to go in. Ole Miss leads us off. I've got their room at about an 8.25, scale of 1 to 10. Jackson Dart's a top 10 quarterback in the country this year. He's got the physicals. He's got the intangibles. He's got the experience. I think he's a veteran, leadership presence, and I think that they love the dynamic in that sense that they have there. Walker Howard behind him is unproven, which is not rare. That's the case with a lot of backup quarterback situations. Austin Simmons, raw, very talented. So if Jackson Dart were to go down, it wouldn't be some situation like Texas, for example, where they just go, all right, Arch, get in there. There would be a pretty steep drop-off here. Having said that, your starter generates a lion's share of what this rating's all about, and Jackson Dart's played in a lot of meaningful football, and now it's all built to this. Ole Miss, one of the favorites to contend for a playoff spot this year. 8.25 for Ole Miss. Let's move. Oh, next up, drum roll, please, Texas A&M. We're just SEC West, as it used to be constructed. SEC West, old SEC West team. Texas A&M, I got them at a 7 for their quarterback rating. Connor Wigman somehow is still kind of an enigma. And what I mean by that is not what's he capable of. I'm asking my A&M fans, what's realistic to expect from him this year? Because it could be a wide array of performance and outcomes, which is what pretty much the definition of an enigmatic quarterback is. Floor, ceiling, a lot of room in between those two. Jalen Henderson, I think the backup there, the kid from Fresno, listen, Wigman's a good player, man. Now, I'm not using anything else around him. I'm just talking about the quarterback here in the quarterback situation. But they got to find a different gear. And if they find that different gear, this should be higher than a 7. But we don't know what we don't know. So Connor Wigman, still a redshirt sophomore, I'm putting them at a 7. Now let's go somewhere where there's a lot of hope. There's no result. There's just a lot of hope. South Carolina, their quarterback room, I'm putting it at a 6.5 on the 1 to 10 scale because there's no experience. Like there's no real proven production here, but there is so much potential. Lenora Sellers, we've been waiting on him, and it's finally his time. We were talking about him last year as if a year from now he was going to be the guy. Well, it's a year later, and he is the guy. Ton of ability, no experience. The only one way to get it, obviously. The backup situation is basically Lenore's just stay healthy. Robbie Ashford came there from Auburn. He's the backup quarterback. I don't know that, aside from him, their quarterback of the future is there, but Lenore Sellers is the here and now. He's the guy. Give me a 6.5 on South Carolina. Could easily check back in after the first month of the season and say, oh, no, that should have been like a 7.5 or an 8. Just depends on how he plays. Texas has got the best quarterback room in the SEC, probably the best quarterback room in the country. Texas with Quinn Ewers and then Arch Manning behind him and then Trey Owens behind him. I got him at a 9.5. The only reason that's not a 10 is Quinn Ewers hasn't been an elite quarterback. He's been a really good one. If he plays at an elite level this year, that's a 10 room. That's the only thing that keeps that from being a 10. Ewers is entering year 3. It's a do-it year for him. Like, this is it. This is rubber meets road. This is what it's all led to for him. There's still something to prove, though. I don't think anyone argues that. Texas fans know that. He knows that. Sark knows that. We were just out there last week. That's kind of internally what they're talking about. But Arch Manning's the best backup in the country, too. So I've got a number of guys that even if my leader goes down, I feel comfortable putting the reins in the hands of. And that's what makes a quarterback room. That's why I think Texas has the best one in the SEC. Kentucky was next up. Now, this one's weird because Kentucky has taken a different approach than most other teams. Kentucky's just outright decided we're going to portal quarterbacks. They had Will Levis 2 years ago. They had Devin Leary last year. Well, now it's Brock Vandagriff. Comes there by way of Georgia, and he doesn't have a lot of starting experience, but they had to do it. And so I put them at a 6.5. They overhaul this quarterback room every year. Obviously, that means depth is not going to be there. It's either the starter works out or we'll see you next year. Their quarterback of the future is probably not there because they choose an alternate route, which is fine. It's not necessarily the way Dabo and Clemson are going to go about it, but Mark Stoops has looked around at Kentucky and said, if we've got this thing, we might as well use it. 6.5. Uh, I don't know what to expect from Brock Vandagriff. Yeah, everyone talked well of him in the spring. Who talks poorly of their quarterback in the spring? So we'll see. Alabama was next up. Alabama, I put at an 8.5. We were conflicted on this one. Some wanted an 8. Some wanted like an 8.75 or 9. I settled in the middle. Alabama 8.5 for the quarterback room. Jalen Milroe enters year 2 as the starter there. He's just outside the Heisman finalist list last year, so he had a good year. He now is in a Kalen DeBoer system. And there are two schools of thought out there about this. One is, his skill set doesn't necessarily mesh with what DeBoer wants to do. And then I was looking at, I think it was Jordan Palmer breaking him down earlier today and talking about how, no. Actually, look at this. He's going to thrive in Kalen DeBoer's system. All I know is the room is solid around him, too. Not spectacular, but solid. Frankly, I was surprised that they held on to all these guys. Ty Simpson is still there. Lonergan is still there. Like, Dylan Lonergan's a kid some Alabama fans don't even know about. And I fully believe he could go start for someone at a lower level right now, but I think he could go start for someone. Austin Mack, I believe, is the future of that program. So they've got really good depth there. Not a whole lot of proven production behind Milroe, but I do think it's a really solid room, and they're playing for the right guy. I'll say that. That's an 8.5 on Alabama's rating for the quarterback room. Georgia was right behind Bama. Again, in the random drawing, Georgia behind Bama. 9.25 on the rating for Georgia's quarterback room. Carson Beck is back. I think he's the most important player in the SEC this year. I said that last show, and I'm not sure how in the world it was controversial, but some people found a way to make it controversial. What I meant by that is if he's good to great this year, the rest of you are done. Because if Georgia's got good to great quarterback play, Georgia's the best team in the SEC. Georgia's probably the best team in the country if they have that. And there's, frankly, only one team that I'd even be interested to see them play in the national title, and that team's not in the SEC. That team's in Columbus, Ohio. So Carson Beck's really important, and him coming back's really important. I cannot tell you how many people, when we were at Georgia in February, said that behind the scenes. Everything else about the team was downstream of, we got Carson Beck back. So that's a big deal. He's a top 3 quarterback in the country, by my estimation, but also Gunnar Stockton's there. Ryan Puglisi comes in as a true freshman. Don't forget they picked up Jaden Rashada in the transfer portal as well. So, again, not proven production behind Carson Beck, but some really good talent behind him. Carson Beck hasn't played elite-level football either, much like Quinn Ewers. The difference is Texas's room behind the starter is a different caliber than Georgia's. That's why Georgia's 9.25 and Texas is 9.5. We're splitting hairs there. These are two of the best quarterback rooms in the country. Missouri, next up. We were at Missouri about a month and a half ago. Brady Cook, 27 starts. He's back as the starter. Could still stand to be more consistent, though. There were some games last year where there were, long stretches of non-productivity. I'm giving their room a 7.25. If he can be more consistent, that'd be nice. Drew Pine is the backup there. They had to go get someone because they have no production. They have no experience behind Brady Cook. Aiden Glover is a true freshman. Maybe in time he turns out to be something, but Drew Pine is a decent number 2. Sam Horn's out for the year with an injury, I believe. So 7.25 from Missouri. And now we go where everyone has waited for us to go. Vandy got drawn smack dab in the middle. So Vandy doesn't have to wait until last. Who's the starting quarterback at Vanderbilt? Hello? Diego Pavia. Hey, Jesse, did we get a final pronunciation on the last name? Pavia. Okay, because it could have been Pavia. Either way, I was going to get it wrong. So Diego Pavia comes there from New Mexico State. It's a transfer, probably going to be their starter. As you would imagine, Vandy's been ravaged by the portal. Ken Seals gone. A.J. Swan gone. That's 34 starts at quarterback. Just gone. Why? Because of the portal and because you're Vandy. So I'm going to give the room a 4.5. Sorry, just is what it is. How about Florida? University of Florida. What about the quarterback room? I didn't ask you about the team. Quarterback room. Florida's got one of the sneaky best quarterback rooms in the entire country. Do you realize this? Graham Mertz came back for year 19, and Graham Mertz played good football last year. I expect him to play good football this year. Got 43 starts under his belt. DJ Lagway's in there as well. Lagway would start for a lot of teams. Even as a true freshman, he'd start for a lot of teams. Really interested to see how they handle that. Is there an opportunity for him to play as the year goes on? Regardless of what the answer to that is, this is a really good quarterback room. And I know the challenge of the schedule they play, and I know how many of you have written them off. One of Meemaw's golden rules was, Joshua, do not write off teams that have good quarterback rooms. They may be underdogs. They may lose a bunch. Don't write them off. Conversely, don't be buying into teams that don't have good quarterback rooms. So I'm giving Florida's room an 8.5. There are not many quarterback rooms better than this. Now, we look elsewhere. If we do position unit breakdowns elsewhere, there are some holes on this team. Quarterback's not one of them. Oklahoma, next up, 7.5 on the 1 to 10 scale for Oklahoma's quarterback room. Jackson Arnold has the potential to be good. He's just not proven yet. He started one game. Casey Thompson got brought in as their number 2, by the way. Casey Thompson, man, he's been around the block. That does give you some experience in your backup spot. The future quarterback I don't think is there, but that's okay because they've recruited. They've portaled at top 10 levels, respectively. But Jackson Arnold, this is the year for him. It's got to be big time. He was brought in there to be big time and has been at every stop in his career previously. This is obviously major college football, though. So 6'1", 212. He was number 10 prospect in that 2023 class. 7.5 is a good number, and it's a balance of potential but lack of proven production. What about LSU? LSU is another one that I know a lot of the country only understands as the team that lost the Heisman Trophy winner. LSU's got a really good quarterback room, man. I'm putting him at a 9. Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the starter there, but A.J. Swan's there. That's the kid that transferred from Vanderbilt. Ricky Collins is there, and I know this is kind of cheating, but, man, they're about to sign the number 1 quarterback for the 2025 class in Bryce Underwood. So I feel like with LSU, I could look way off on the horizon, and I can see their quarterback situation for years to come being really solid. So, again, that's why we don't write off teams. Not that anyone's writing LSU off, but we don't write off teams that are seemingly set at the quarterback position. LSU is. The only thing when we get in the weeds with Nussmeier this year is how good can their run game be? It's got to be a lot better because you don't have Daniels, who made up for a lot of that last year. And there have been years in the past where LSU has struggled to generate what they should always have, which is a dominant ground game. Hopefully, this year, we're not singing that same tune. Mississippi State, just up the road, had to give them a 5. Blake Shapen, formerly of Baylor semi-fame, he's there now. 23 starts under his belt. Chris Parson was a former Elite 11 quarterback. He's a sophomore now. He's the backup. It's Jeff Lebby's first year. They got to fill the room out. It is what it is there right now. They need to pull a couple of upsets this year and make sure that they just stay at the forefront of people's minds, but I'm going to give them a 5. Auburn, not much better. Auburn's room, I'd make a 5.5. Peyton Thorne is back. He's got experience. It's just mostly bad. It seems like forever ago that 2021 season happened at Michigan State. But look, experience is wonderful, but what are you really returning? And I'm of the opinion that Hugh Freeze was on the record the other day as saying, we could have gone and spent a lot of money and got a quarterback, but we didn't think that was wise. Well, what that really means, if you read between the lines, is he is right. They could have gone and gotten one. They're more than a quarterback away. They knew that. And so that is smart. They got smart people running things at Auburn. I do know that much. So they're not idiots. They know what they're doing there. In the meantime, there's no depth behind him. Walker White, true freshman, but quarterback is probably not a strength for Auburn this year. Let me just put it that way. Tennessee is a total different story. Tennessee, I would make an 8.5 on the 1 to 10 scale, and that is very lofty because, as you know, Nico Iamaleava doesn't have a ton of starting experience under his belt either. It's just how highly I think of him. That is going to be a star. That is your next star player in college football. So this rating's only going to go up. The backup situation's unknown, so there's not a ton of depth behind him. I do think that you could count on blue chip type guys coming in the next 2 cycles, but Nico Iamaleava, I am very, very much all in on, to the point where he doesn't have all that starting experience under his belt. I'm still putting him at an 8.5. Arkansas, Bobby Petrino is not taking snaps this year. He is, however, calling plays. But Talon Green, came there from Boise State. Anytime you talk to someone at Arkansas, they either say it's going to be a long year, or they say, Talon Green, don't sleep on him, don't sleep on him. Well, okay, I'm not. He's got 22 starts, dual threat, not a great passer from what I've seen, although that one looked pretty good, albeit in a spring game. Bobby, work your magic, my friend, on the field. Work your magic. He needs a lot. He needs a lot of help around him. There's no experience behind him. The situation is a 6.5. So there you go. You may have questions about the SEC, but not about the quarterback situations because we just rated every one of them.